Howdy, howdy.
Hello. Hello, welcome. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good.
All right, so we are joined by Harrison and Josh, developers on Turn the Tide. Timmy and Ollie Turn the Tide, I should say.
Yeah.
And hopefully, in a little bit, if possible, Errol is going to join us as well.
Yeah, he'll try to join from the car. I guess he's driving back from work right now.
Oh, sorry, I think I had your volume turned down too low. Could you repeat that?
Hello, 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 hello,
Yeah, you're
hello.
good. You're good. You're good.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So Errol, I guess, is coming back from work, so he'll join if he can from the car. We'll see what happens. But you got Josh and me here, and um, yeah, I guess we'll see what when Errol gets in here.
Yeah, for sure. And can you tell me, just so everyone knows, like here's the full team. So it's
Hmm.
yourself. It's Damon. Is that is that Doug Trio?
Yeah, that's Doug True. Yeah.
That's a fun play on the name. Um,
Yeah.
so Josh, Shane's off the grid, and Errol. Can you tell me a little bit about what your roles in the project were?
Yeah, absolutely. So we had around like a team around this size last year as well. Where it was myself doing kind of a bit of like project management, as well as some programming. I did some code stuff and some level design. Damon and Shane were primarily programming. As well as like level design. Near the end, we were all doing level design. We were just crank out the levels as fast as we could, and then Errol was the everything we needed in that moment guy, as well as he is a fantastic PR person as well. Like I honestly like he is unstoppable when it comes to that sort of thing. But it's like, he would find and or make sounds, find and or make graphics. Like he basically put the page together because we were talking about that. We're like, oh yeah, we should get a good itch.io page going because we saw this some last year, and so he handled that. And yeah, yeah, so yeah, oh yeah, right. And Josh did the art. Josh did like some development last year, but this year he asked if he could just focus on doing the art because he'd been doing some pixel art over the past year on his own game.
Yeah,
And yeah,
yeah. Anything pixel art in this game, yeah, was either done or was primarily done by me. I think Errol also contributed to some of the pixel art. Then I touched up and animated some of it for the game as well.
right, yes.
Great. Well, I will go ahead and run the game. Actually, is there anything? Are the controls explained in game, or should I read these ahead of time?
They are in game on screen. Unfortunately, we didn't have time to put a proper tutorial in, but like, they are on screen if you forget any of the controls. Top left, I believe, of the screen.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and try out the web version, and if not, the download is pretty small, so unless you
Yeah,
particularly recommend one or the other.
I haven't heard any complaints about the way the web version runs so far. From looking at the analytics, it looks like almost nobody's bothered to download it. So I'd say that's a good sign.
Yeah, that's mostly my experience as well. Is like I do create the XE version just in case anyone wants it, but it's like
Exactly.
99% of the web version.
Well, we actually pushed an exe because when we pushed the first build of the web version, there are like there's a cannon hazard in the game, and the cannons just weren't firing on the web version for some reason. Turned out it was just a simple like Unity like fixed update versus update thing. So we just turned an update into a fixed update, and then it worked fine. and but like it was like for a moment we're just like, okay, we're gonna push this exe because literally like one of the most important hazards that like is part of the puzzle design isn't working, but
Yeah.
we got it fixed.
Okay, this is perfect. Just having a little reference of what the those are in the top corner there. Whoop. All right, I see. Yeah, you got to get the characters to stick together, otherwise they don't move at the same time.
Hmm.
Aha, there we go. Now we can move together. So it's is this at all inspired by Thomas Was Alone?
There was discussion of that absolutely when we first started the design, but it was less of like, oh, let's do something like Thomas's Alone, and then as we're like filling out the idea, we're just like, this is actually kind of like Thomas's Alone.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess I will go ahead and start with the questions then. which is how did you decide on what you're going to make with the jam? Make for the jam?
Um, so we have a bit of a process that we did the same last year, where we give 15 minutes to the team to brainstorm as many ideas as possible. Then everyone gets, I think, 5 votes, and then we pick the ones with the most votes from that, and then we pretty much do that, but like with a reduced number of votes until we get like a winner. This year we had 2 winners, and so we basically just had a big discussion about which one we would prefer. Oh, right, level 2. This is going to be interesting. There's
Yeah.
a skip button, by the way, if you need it. Level 2 has been reportedly the hardest level, understandably, because it takes a bit of a tricky maneuver that we didn't have time to teach. But yeah, so that's how we decided this year. Big discussion at the end, but like stuck between 2 ideas, and this was the one that won out.
All right. I really like your diplomatic approach to selecting a jam idea. I think that's really cool.
I find it works really well, and it creates a lot of interesting discussion. Like actually, like usually in the first like brainstorm session, the people who come up with the ideas, they're not allowed to really pitch their game like and describe it more in detail. It's more like give it a 1 sentence thing, and then later on when the list has been shaved down to like maybe 5 submissions, we go down that list, and then everyone gives like the full pitch, and then when there's like a couple left, then we do a larger scale like sort of discussion. Yeah, this one is like we need to like I feel like the hitboxes need to be a little bit more forgiving. This one's tricky. It's like when you disconnect, it acts basically as a jump, and so you can get away with usually just doing a disconnect.
I figured out what I was supposed to do pretty much immediately. But I must admit that I figured it out. Well, sort of incidentally, because in the first level you have to connect and you have to disconnect in order to get the. Well, let's see which one is which. It's okay. Timmy the turtle and Ollie the octopus. That makes sense. Okay. So Ollie. To get Ollie up to like the top right corner of the screen where you have the level end for him, and then to get Timmy the turtle down to the bottom. When I disconnected them, I was like, oh, okay, it creates a little jump. So I noticed that, but I still think that before you require the player to do it in this level, it would probably be best to introduce a situation where you expressly have to use it to get Ollie up to some high place, because like here again you have to disconnect to get Ollie up here and Timmy down here. So the player should realize, okay, when you disconnect there's a little bit of a jump, but maybe just something where you've got a block placed up extra high to really sell it in the player's mind.
And I feel like the cannon itself is also like the bullets move just too slowly in general. If they moved a little faster, then they would shoot underneath Ollie a lot quicker, and it probably would be a much easier level that way, especially for a level 2 introductory level. But yeah, like it's one thing we learned after we pushed it. We're just like, oh, level 2 might be a little challenging.
Yeah, I think it's also because we've been able to, well, we've just been watching people do this level over and over, and like we haven't been able to do anything about it because you can't make edits. And so we've come up with like quite a few different ways of improving the level at this point. Like there were discussions about making the cannons actually like a collider so that you can actually jump on the cannon, because there's this bit of weirdness where you can move through it and then still be hit with a projectile if it's spawned at the right time. We also talked about just like maybe slowing the cannon down, like reducing the size of the projectile. It's like lots of little things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fundamentally, it seems like you only have to dodge one shot if you time it right.
Yeah, no, you did really well there.
So I don't know if there's the other. I was going to say maybe the cannon would only fire when you approach the part where it enters the screen, but that's not a good idea because you want to see the projectile coming to know that it's there in the first place. So
absolutely, yeah.
And
there are some sound effects for it too, but like, being able to see it is definitely important.
Yeah, why aren't I hearing any of the sound effects? Do I just have the volume mixer turned down though?
Oh, you might.
I actually have noticed a couple of times that sometimes sometimes the game just doesn't play the sounds at first. If you refresh and and try again, you might hear it.
Yeah. I found that I had to set, like I was the only person to experience this, I think, but I had to like set all of the other volume settings to maximum first, and then it was fine. But that only happened to me once.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's just a one-time thing.
Yeah. It's we hooked the audio up to a mixer, which seemed to work pretty okay. But I was the one doing it, and my volume is like my speakers are turned up a lot, but my computer volume's turned down a lot as well to make up for it, to compensate for it. So it's just like it could just be like it's just really quiet for you.
Yeah, I can't. Even I even switched over to the exe. Oh yeah, there it's coming in. All right, let's go into the settings and crank everything. Oh yeah, wow! Just changing the music volume.
It is, yeah. It's pretty. It's yeah. I think like this is my first time really messing with the audio mixer and adding like setting sliders for it. So I think like I mean I definitely learned a lot, as with most of these jams when you try something new like this. It is like it was pretty strange to try and get the sound right where like things seem to scale properly, but I don't know, it's probably just a numbers thing that I just need to figure out.
Yeah, I've heard that it's usually like you need to go for like a logarithmic scale or something.
That's
but
yeah, I've had a feeling like that might be the case. I just did like a regular like 1-to-1 adjustment on the slider instead of any like modified like adjusted scale.
Yeah, I've only ever heard of it. I've never had to program it myself.
Yeah, it's weird, but like
the funny thing is
cheating.
Oh, I don't know. I thought that was the way you're supposed to do it.
No, that's okay. No, there's a bit of a wall jump bug that has allowed some of the puzzles to be more easily solved.
Okay, well, if that's cheating, I'll try to solve it legitimately.
Honestly, I think it's fine, because I think like even when we were playtesting it briefly amongst ourselves, like a couple of us figured some alternative ways around the levels.
Yeah, we figured out how to sequence break some stuff. I guess like with this level, like this is kind of an introductory level about like the fact that Timmy can latch onto Ollie's head at the beginning of the level. He's placed. Yeah. Well, so we like place him above. Yeah. Okay. It's like because you can do some interesting things with Timmy on the top by like hooking him onto stuff, or in this case like so like you can just kind of slot him there and then use him as a platform.
Okay, I think that I don't know. It didn't occur to me that would be possible to do it the other way around. But
again, yeah, it's one of those things that like that could use a little bit more of a maybe like a heavy-handed introduction, and then a complicated puzzle to make you use it.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. Yeah, I see. Because you specifically need the shell on top to not get hurt by those.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think I've watched some other people play this game, and this is usually the point where, like, they like if they didn't figure it out in the last puzzle, this is where they learn that this is possible and necessary.
Yeah, and I think having the hazard on top was really more effectively conveys the whole Timmy on top situation.
Yeah, so even just switching the order of the levels around, or switching that puzzle specifically, that component of it, into an earlier part.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, playtesting during a jam would be amazing, but I think we've, as much as we've tried to plan for it before, it still proves to be a bit of a luxury if we can find the time.
We even tried to do some continuous integration, so that way we would push builds to a staging page for itch.io, and then Errol was going to be testing those. But it was just like, it was so tight, we just we weren't able to get like an effective staging branch up in time. But like you know how these things are. It's just like these jams are always a pretty big learning experience. You come out of it with so much more experience and know-how than you did going in.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Josh, you sound like you might want to say something.
All right, no, I was just agreeing.
Yeah, no, I remember. Well, I remember. I should say that for all the people that I've spoken to over these last few days, a lot of them had mentioned just like how much they like to treat jams as learning experience, and I'm oddly an outlier in that. I usually go into a jam thinking like, okay, what am I gonna make? I'm gonna make something that I know how to make. Like it's going to be a game that I haven't made before necessarily. Like Allocate was vaguely inspired by some of the tower defense games I've made in the past, but it's never like I've made this exact mix of mechanics before. But it was something that in my head, there weren't any unknowns. There wasn't anything that's like, okay, I don't have to figure anything out. I'm just executing on prior knowledge.
I imagine that would be significantly less stressful than what we went through
That's
this
the
jam.
thing.
Where it's just like, okay, well, like the platforming stuff, like Josh has plenty of experience with 2D platformers in Unity specifically, and so is Damon, because Damon has been helping Josh with his game. I guess, sorry, Josh, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, I think calling back to the discussion we had when we were discussing a game, like our other idea was definitely something we were going to be less familiar with because it was going to be like very narrative heavy, and
right, yes.
Like, purely like decision-based game, and I think even when we were talking about it then, we were like, okay, like sure, there are some unknowns in this platformer type game, but it does like use some similar mechanics that like we have like dabbled with before. Oh, and yeah, Errol has said that this is his Switch level, which I think quite a few people have mentioned is I think they found like this the most interesting one, or really tough. I forget.
A little bit. Some people have said like the introduction to switches has been a little bit interesting, and like if we basically use these green line renderers to just like link up buttons to other things and to certain controls, and so it is a little trickier. But yeah, I guess I'm sorry to circle back to what to Josh was saying. The original game we were thinking of was definitely going to be basically like dialogue driven narrative game, which like would have been tougher for those of us in our group who haven't had any experience with that sort of thing. And so we went with platformer because for the most part, like at least Josh and Damon had experience doing platformers in Unity. And so like the new thing for us was going to be making these characters that can attach to one another and make their interactions with the world more interesting. Though we still had some interesting stuff with the platformers because Unity applies, you use rigid bodies for stuff, and it's just like, how would you like all your characters to be very slippery?
Oh, completely.
I mean, I think, even all that said, after the jam, we, yeah, nice. We kind of decided that like, we had a bit of discussion about the fact that next year we want to try doing something a bit more experimental.
Yeah, because
I was just gonna say we're definitely more of the use jams as like experimental learning times.
Yeah, because I feel like you just in a jam, it's just you have 48 hours to figure it out, right? Like you just have to get it done, and I mean we try not to like push our boundaries too much because you still want to be able to finish the game. You don't want to come up with some really like out of left field idea and then just like struggle the entire time figuring it out. But part of the fun, like at least especially like for me, is doing something I haven't done before and like trying to do it as quickly as possible. And like, I mean, granted though, my actual job involves a lot of that as well. So that's just kind of been what my career has been like so far. So I'm pretty comfortable diving into the unknown. I mean, I'm pretty comfortable, not uncomfortable. I'm pretty comfortable diving into the unknown usually.
Sounds good. All right. Yeah, Errol, there was that like small like oh moment because I did okay. So what I would recommend with the switches is that the very first time you encounter them, I didn't realize what the line renderer was connecting to. Like I just sort of saw like, oh, it looks like it's connecting to nothing. Oh, I bet it's connecting to something that's just not visible. So that was the moment. But I think that if there was some way of either constructing that stage such that the elements are stacked one on top of another, so you can see it all on one screen, that would make it just a little bit more clear.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I totally agree.
I'm just thinking, like, if there's a way, like, you have the level kind of doubling back on itself in a U shape. Like, imagine U turned on its side. You know, why am I doing? Why am I using my hands when I can just use my hands? So the structure of the level is, roughly speaking, something like this. You've got this sort of chunk here, another platform like that, and then you've got a chunk here, and like that. But then you've got a switch that goes from here all the way over to here. I'm wondering if you could take this chunk and mirror it so that it's above here instead, and that way you could actually see the switch that you're influencing.
Right.
You could just have it, one directly above the other.
And then like instead of just jumping like you could do that. You could still do that initial jump where you go from Timmy's head to like you could have like a little ledge there.
Yeah.
Or just like jump straight up. Yeah, actually that could work. And then you see what it's connected to. And I think like in general, the way the buttons work, having some sort of visual indicator for what they're connected to, as opposed to just a line renderer, as well as when something is on versus like when a button needs to be held down versus when it's a single press, because there is a distinction there as well. It's just like we got the buttons done and we're just like, let's throw buttons into some levels because we have 2 hours to go. But like there are some things like that, like the buttons do allow for some interesting level design. But when it comes to, of course, playtesting, there are some things about the buttons that aren't very intuitive. When it comes to what their function is, hold down or trigger, or exactly, like what they're connected to.
And I think this is just one other small issue here is that I couldn't see as Timmy where the gap in the ceiling was. So I had to kind of make a blind fall as Ollie, just knowing that's like, I think I'm about in the right place.
There is a little arrow that points to Timmy when he's off screen, and same and vice versa.
Yeah, so I was trying to line that myself up with that, but if even if you can't move, like jump as Timmy, if you could use like if you're playing with a controller, use the right stick to just like pan the camera around.
Ooh, yeah. Or even just something as simple as like popping a block right there. So you slide Timmy right up to the block and you can't go any further.
Yeah.
And then you need Ollie to like latch on to jump over it. So just guarantees that you're going to be in the same right spot every time. But also, panning the camera would be really handy as well. And zooming in and out.
Yeah.
Yeah, or even the classic platformer hold like up and then you character.
Right,
exactly.
The camera up. Sort of like elastic camera sort of thing.
Yeah, just the way that you would get that in Super Mario World. Like you hold the button down and you get to like look up, which I wonder how many people are actually aware of that as a mechanic. I feel like it's not like it might be. It's one of those things that's never explained, but you just kind of do it naturally. Like you hold up and Mario looks up, and then you hold it down for long enough, and the camera actually pans up. Same thing that if you crouch down, the camera pans down, but otherwise the camera is just locked to your position.
Yeah, for sure. All
right. So I guess we can. Oh, and then yes, with reference to the shells, if it's a shell that you need to just touch once and then it activates permanently, maybe make it a different style of shell, and when you touch it, it shatters.
Oh,
because then you don't think you ever have to touch it anymore.
Yeah. No, I actually like that idea a lot. I was like gonna come up with a reason why I like it. No, I just like it. That's absolutely that's just good. I like it.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So this was wow. I think did we finish talking about your development process for the game?
I don't think so. Maybe I guess we talked about how we came up with the idea, but development process after that was split into Damon and Shane taking over like the coding stuff for the most part, with Damon focusing on the actual character mechanics, like the movement mechanics, and Shane working on things like buttons, doors, switches, that sort of thing. And as well as like working on the tile map, like with Josh's help, because Josh has a decent experience with Unity tile mapper. And this was like Shane's first game jam, and he hadn't really had a lot of experience with Unity, so this was kind of just like us getting him up to speed very quickly. And then Josh went silent for like half the jam working on the art and wouldn't even show us like what he was working on. In fact, like the only clip we had like partway through the jam was all these little feet scuttling around, and we're just like, we still have no idea like what the hell he's making. And he's like, by the way, it's an octopus and a turtle, and we're just like, oh, okay. And then we went ahead with that. It was a lot of fun.
Literally, the theme for this entire game started with Ollie's feet, and then his body came after that, and then it was like Timmy's feet, and then the shell, and I was like, okay, I guess that's the theme now.
Yes, that's the theme. That's pretty funny, actually. Yeah, really, we really enjoyed that. We found it really we found the character designs really charming, and as like a lot of commenters seem to agree that like the art style is very charming. So like, yeah, no, it was really cool, and yeah, so like we pretty much like Damon stayed focused on movement for the most part, while Shane worked on a lot of the sort of a lot of the other mechanics. And while I did mostly just kind of like organizing, I designed some initial level ideas, like very basic, like introductory things, and then also did a lot of bug fixes. Like basically, if there was an issue, someone would just tell me about it, and that's what I'd be doing. And yeah, I already kind of explained that Errol was the everyman who's like got a lot of the sounds, graphics, did a lot of like the making up the page and whatnot.
Yeah, so the reason that I've stayed paused on this screen for so long is because this level here where you teach the like tall jump mechanic, I feel like I've already had to do this. Like this level could easily be earlier in the game.
Yeah, I think so too. Like especially because it doesn't really have any hazards.
Yeah, exactly. So that's
yeah, that's good. That's a good pointer for sure.
Pause on that and mention it real quick. Yeah. So did you have more that you were going to say about the development process?
I'm not totally sure. I think it was like when it came to development, like there were the biggest challenge I think, like in general, when it came to development was, getting the characters to stick together in a way that was functional, and intuitive for the most part. And then I felt like we spent a lot of time trying to get that right. And so this is kind of where it comes in, where it's just like you said about like going into a jam, knowing what you're capable of doing and kind of rolling with that. Whereas like, yeah, it was a learning experience. So a lot of time was spent perfecting, or like, like just sort of fine tuning the movement of the characters and the way they snap together, and like their various like functionality, like how can like Timmy blocking stuff and Ollie dying to hazards instead, and so once we got that done, the jam was part of the way over, and so then we had to get the levels made, so that was definitely very challenging to kind of like quick rush, which is why you may notice the level order is a bit disjointed. Certain things are getting introduced kind of late, or like at a weird time, because we basically just like made a bunch of levels, and we're just like, well, we don't have time to order them. We're going live, like let's do it.
Yeah. All right. So in that case, if you don't have anything else to say about the development phase, then we'll move on to the next question, which is, can you recommend a useful shortcut or a clever hack, either in the engine that you're using or in the art program?
What did we think of?
I feel like I guess what I think I have a few.
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead.
Across. So I mean, when we first started the game jam, part of the time that I was silent was spent making a lot of like placeholder art. So all these tile maps, all the characters were, just white boxes. And then all I had to do, for the most part, all I had to do was take those same PNGs, and I was using Ace Sprite. and just take those PNGs, edit them there, and then basically once Unity finished loading the assets, everything would automatically have been updated, and it just made parts of the art process very seamless and quick to implement. And in the same manner, like that happened with like some of the tile maps as well. And also for I realized that Sprite could do like lots of really interesting things with tile maps, like those stones that you're seeing around the border of the level. Getting those to tile properly, I would not be able to do in something like Paint. Like, you know, no hate to Paint. There's plenty of great things in Paint. But yeah, like, you know, Sprite has this amazing like tiling system that you can preview everything that you're doing, and that just made a lot of the art stuff like really easy. All of the gradients are like the I forget what it's called, like the dithering on the characters in the background. That's just, you know, how Sprite's paint tool, fill tool works, and that just made everything like, I guess, have a consistent feel. And I think I was also talking to some of the teammates about like how there's like very distinct things you can do with like a 2D game, like having parallax backgrounds that just elevate the game very quickly in how it looks.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, exactly.
That's, I think, all of the things that came to my mind immediately.
Yeah, sure. And then anything on the Unity side?
I feel like, well, I mean, I personally feel like, if you're doing a lot of game jams, have a 2D platformer template handy. Just, I don't know, like a basic character controller. I mean, that's not something that we had. I'm saying that because we made it from scratch, and I was just like, like this just feels like something even I personally would like to have. Just like a basic Unity 2D platformer template where the tile map and like the colliders on the tiles have like the proper physics material, the character has the proper physics material, as well as like all the proper rigid body settings to make the movement feel comfortable. Because like I felt like a lot of time was spent fine tuning the rigid bodies, like the angular momentum, like the angular drag, like the gravity scale, friction on the tiles, and as well as the characters on top of each other. There's a lot of stuff that, like, looking back on, it was just like, if we just had like a 2D template, a 2D platformer template, then things would have moved a lot quicker. I mean, of course, it's not like we should have had one. It was just like, okay, I feel like almost like I want to make one even just for myself, just because I feel like because if you just have that, then you can just make a platformer. Go ahead and do it. And the tile mapper, honestly, the tile mapper is just excellent in Unity. It is really handy just for like we were able to quickly pump out like 10 levels as we were rushing just to get the game out the door. Because the tile mappers just makes that really handy, really easy to do.
Yeah, for sure. I've only used the tile mapper a little bit myself, but I know it is quite handy because you can place like not just tiles, you can place like full-on game objects on the tile layers and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So, do you have any more plans for the game going forward, aside from some of the changes in polish?
Yeah, I think like we're definitely going to make more levels, rearrange the existing ones, or even redesign some of them, to kind of like create more of a cohesive flow, like some of the pointers you've been giving, where it's just like things that should be introduced a little earlier in a bit more of a like safer experimental environment where you die if you mess it up, and like some of the like the wires, like the shell connections, that sort of stuff. Just overall, and like we did want to do some stuff where when the character's connected/disconnected, there might be like an effect, like for example, like the classic puzzle platformer gravity switch type mechanic. So maybe like when you connect the characters together, gravity changes, both characters fly upwards toward the ceiling, and then when you disconnect, they come back down. Little things like that might be just kind of interesting to do, to kind of spice things up, or just fun to experiment with,
Absolutely. I think that one thing that would really help is making it so that level 1, Ollie has to be stacked on top of Timmy, and then level 2, Timmy has to stack on top of Ollie. Because otherwise, you might start to form an association in your mind that you're always like Ollie goes on top of Timmy, and that's the way it goes. Because you do that twice in a row. So especially with the cannon level being so early, I think if you inject another level where you have the characters swapping like one on top of the other, then that could help sort of set that in people's minds as like, okay, this is also a practical approach. Like this level, for example, could definitely go maybe not as the second level of the game, but there's like some other, like that hazard in the beginning, right? Where you have to
exactly.
Like take this exact thing from here and make this level 2. And
I
it's
think
a very short level.
Yeah, demonstrating that early could be like really handy. So yeah, like you said, they don't just like have this association that Ollie always goes on top, and then they know more about like how it's like what options they have.
One piece of advice I gave to the team that I guess I don't know, I just heard from like other people, game dev Twitter, is that typically your tutorial gets done last, because like when you're trying to tutorialize everything in your game, and then you start developing levels and you find out all these like crazy mechanics that you want to add and do, and then you come back to your tutorial and you realize it's completely inadequate. So yeah, definitely planning out like some tutorial levels would be I guess one of our biggest priorities, but also I guess might end up being one of the last things we do if we're doing like a post jam wrap up, polish wrap up. Yeah,
it's a kind of tricky trade-off because hey, nice, we're getting some love in the chat here from Grizzloid, saying, yeah, you gotta love the parallax beams in the water. Yeah, it's super effective for just 4 frames of animation, just cycling nicely, and the parallax. Oh yeah, so there's the beams themselves. There's the parallax layered backgrounds, and yeah, it's all contributing to a really pleasant experience. So Braves, what I was gonna say. What was it? Oh yeah, the tutorial, right? So with reference to creating a tutorial, like I suppose if you know what the mechanics you want to teach are, you don't just have to think about the beginning of your game as a tutorial. Like if you have like, okay, here's a level, let's create something previous to that. That is going to like set up that mechanic. So you don't have to make the tutorial as the very last thing, but I do agree that the tutorial for something can be developed after the level that it's explaining. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. So other than that, are there any other shoutouts or to other people or projects that you would like to promote?
Oh man, I've actually seen like a surprising, not a surprising amount. Like I've seen like a lot of really cool projects in this jam so far. Like I did a stream, I think on Thursday, I think. Today's Thursday. On Tuesday, and a bunch of people who showed up in the chat just like passed their games along, and I was just blown away by some of them. What was one that I really liked for a very specific reason? Let me just scroll through the list.
So while you're looking at that, I just realized it was here in level 6. This is where you need to do the sort of like double jump mechanic to get Ollie up over the top here.
Right. Yes. That's the part you're referring to. Oh right. Okay. Eject bombing. I'm not sure if I can.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
Mostly just like this is the game from the thing. I'll put the in the Discord chat that we have going on. I'll just throw the link down there. But like I don't know. I like this one because I think and this is something that like when I first watched the theme video, it was like Mark at the end of the video is just like, the physical connection and what happens when that connection breaks. And I heard that and I was just like, that's a clue. like he's gonna be looking for that, and a bunch of people probably aren't gonna do anything with that, but he's probably Factory. Oh my gosh, that one's so good too. Oh man, like I honestly could gush about some of the games that I got submitted to me last stream so much because I was just so impressed by many of them. Factory as well, so I'll send you that link too. It's like what happens. Oh yeah, perfect. But yeah, like what happens when so like that first one, Eject Bomb, and it's like it handles like that whole like breaking connection thing in a really fun and interesting way. Overall it's just a fun game. And yeah, there was just so many cool ideas in the jam, and that's why I just like doing these jams in general, like for the making of the game, but also seeing what other people come up with, because you see some really cool stuff that just can be inspiring in its own way. Just as for like ideas that you just never would have thought of, and then you get to see some really cool stuff. Like Factory was just like Factory was like mind-bogglingly awesome.
Yeah, one of the games that I feel like I really enjoyed that I haven't seen too many people talk about is I just linked it in the chat is Ball to the Wall.
Ball to the Wall's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it has an amazing amount of polish, and it's just incredibly juicy, and I'm amazed by what they made. In such a small amount of time.
All right. Well, thank you so much both for joining me on the stream here. Errol, I'm sorry that you couldn't join in the chat as well, but I appreciate that that you couldn't join on the call, but I appreciate that you were here in the chat, here in spirit. And so this has been. How do I unfull screen?
We didn't put an exit in because we were just doing web builds. So you're gonna have to probably like Windows button or like Alt F4 or something.
All good. All good. That has been Turn the Tide. I'm glad that we finally had a chance to have this conversation because you guys were the first to submit your game in the queue, I believe. And then it's just been a question of like, okay, but can we find a time where we can get like a few of you on the stream at the same time? And
it's been a challenging week, unfortunately, for that. Like, I mean, last time, I think myself at least, I was working freelance last jam. So like getting, for example, like I was on the stream as well last year, and it was a lot easier to like I could literally just stream submissions all day and then like do like this stream and then go back to streaming submissions and just like hanging out. And now I'm just like working like a loser all day.
What a loser!
What a loser! I'm like 9 to 5 working for the man.
Oh yeah, here's the one bolts the wall. I totally see what you mean about the polish immediately.
It is a blast. I like it. It is so like Josh said, it's so juicy. It's like you feel every impact, and it is just a joy from the get go.
Oh, also the Ball to the Wall tutorial is one of my favorite from the jam so far. It is to the point and done, and that's all you need. It's so good. I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah.
Well, yeah, so thank you so much. Oh, and there's another favorite incoming from Errol. We're gonna absolutely think through that here. This is nanobots. Ooh. Very...
Ooh, I still need to check out that one.
All right, well, it's going in the chat. So, I think we are going to move on to our next game here, but yeah, sounds guys, good. Thank you so much once again. I'm glad that we got to keep this up after last year, and I'm looking forward to the next jam where I can once again chat with you guys and show off what you made.
For sure, yeah, can't wait for it.
Yeah,
all right.
Talk to you again.
Talk to you again.
Bye-bye. Bye.